I never thought I would find myself in a situation like this. My husband wanted to come here to fight. He said it was his duty. When my husband insisted we go with him, I agreed.
I came with my parents, but I was scared all the time. I saw people die. I was so afraid to lose my parents or my brother, and I prayed.
I traveled to a country far away from my home with my family 2 years ago. On the worst days, I would close my eyes and try to remember my grandmother's face, my school, all the things I had loved and left behind. But everything just felt so different after we arrived. My clothes, our home.
There was always fighting, shooting in our compound and in the villages all around us. One terrible day, my husband and my older son did not return. I was afraid fighters would come for us next. So I woke up my youngest son in the night and we ran away. That same night, a large battle broke out. After the shooting stopped, soldiers found us and brought us to a camp.
I can still hear the battle like it was yesterday. The shooting went on all day and all night. I managed to hide away, but my whole family was killed. I had to walk for hours to a camp. I was completely alone. But then I heard my mother tongue. A woman from my country was speaking to her son, and I walked up to them and introduced myself. She took pity on me.
I had lost everything. My husband, my son. I felt so numb inside. But when I saw this girl from my country, so alone, I knew I had to help her. I took her hand and decided to take care of her.
Shortly after we arrived in the camp, we met Aygul, who has become like a sister to me. She told me about school and tried to teach me how to read, but we didn't have books. I often felt sad not being able to go to school like other children of my age. I felt left behind by everybody.
When we arrived, it was cold and it was crowded. And sometimes people in the camp were cruel to us. We were always hungry. Many people were sick and we had no medicine. Children were dying.
We heard there was still fighting going on in the province where the camp was located. We didn't have the opportunity to move freely, to express ourselves, to communicate with our families back home. We were struggling to find food and water all the time and could never rest. Some of the other women treated me badly for not following their rules. I was afraid of being targeted. And then, one day, some people from the government of my country came to the camp and met with us. They asked if we wanted to return home and told us they wanted to help, but there would be an investigation to understand if I had committed any crimes. They interviewed me several times.
I remember the day they told us we could go home. They gave us papers with our names on them.
They knew my name and told me that my grandmother back home was looking for me. I was so happy to hear that I hadn't been forgotten.
My government said the United Nations helped them and worked with lawyers, social workers, civil society organizations, police, schools in preparation for our return. They said we are citizens and that our community in the village is receiving programs and trainings to have us back. Flights were organized and we returned home, where I stayed in the transit center for some times. There were so many people taking care of us, encouraging us to talk about everything we had been through, helping us to heal.
I had medical checkups and started going to school. Finally, I am learning to read.
When I arrived, my grandmother came to take me home. We both cried. She told me my aunts and uncles and the neighbors in my village were looking forward to seeing me. We left that same day, but Gulnara promised she would visit us. I will still miss my family, who were taken from me too soon, but I am starting to be happy again.
I was afraid I would never hold Aigul in my arms again. At first it was hard. Our neighbors felt scared having them come back to the community. But in the months before Aigul and the others came back, there were programs to help the community come together to talk about their return. They taught us how to best support Aigul and forgive her family for leaving, in spite of our efforts to stop them.
In the transit center, there were programs that taught me skills to find a job, provided health care, and helped me reconnect with and return to my former community. I never thought my life could change like this, or that my community would accept me back after all that I have been through. But I am moving forward now to rebuild our lives.
Thousands of women and children are stranded in camps in northeastern Syria and Iraq, some of whom have links to UN-listed terrorist groups. Some of the adults are victims and some are perpetrators. Some who may have committed crimes may have done so under duress, or after being trafficked or coerced, or while they were children. All persons to be repatriated must be assessed individually. Those who have committed crimes need to be held accountable in due process proceedings, rehabilitated and reintegrated by their own countries in a manner that is fully human rights compliant and gender and age sensitive. All children are considered first and foremost as victims.